we go. All right, whenever you're ready, Marysa.
All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the FL Solidity team call. My name is Marysa Maggio, and today is September 19th of 2024. I'm super excited to be on with you guys today. I'm going to be talking about a topic that's not necessarily fun to talk about, but it's very important to talk about and make sure that we do hit on as business owners. We're going to be talking about persistency and consistency, persistency and placement, persistency. Okay, now what does this word mean? If you're brand new on this call, guys, let me know if there's confusion. But again, I don't want to go down rabbit holes. I'm going to try to keep everything very baseline, just to try to make sure that the message is delivering strong. So for those of you guys out there that have been doing this for some time, you guys have your own ways and things like that. I just want to put out here a less intricate, for lack of a better term, system that is extremely duplicatable for every single person on this call. So I love you guys, but if it's anything that's more than baseline, let's please not share it for the sake of confusion, okay? We can share it after the call. That's completely fine. But with that all being said, guys, persistency. In this business, we are blessed enough to be in an advanced-based business. Now, what does that mean? That means when John makes his first premium payment of $100, that's $1,200 AP, or annualized premium, right? For most of the carriers, guys, we're getting advanced 9 months upfront, okay? Now that's a blessing. If we use it in the wrong way, it can be a curse, right? So let's make sure we use it as a blessing. Now, I'm going to kind of go over some things that are fundamentally have helped me over the years up my persistency, and also some things I was doing when my persistency went really down at different times in the business. And as you guys know, I'm not too proud to say I've been through some things in this business. I want to make sure that essentially my hindsight can be your foresight. So that's really what I'm going to focus in on this call today, is persistency, guys. So going back to John, the insurance company is going to advance you 9 months upfront, okay? Now let's just say that John pays for 3 months. Whatever, something happens that John's bank doesn't go through on the 4th month. We don't call John, we don't follow up with John, we don't make sure that John didn't die, and I'm not being funny. Guys, we need to check on our business. Now, let's just say John's like, fly a kite, I don't want the policy, I hate you, bye, which is the worst thing that the client could ever say, by the way, guys, which really is not that deep, and they're not going to say that. But my point is you're going to get charged back 6 months out of the 9 that they paid you. If your client doesn't pay the policy, the insurance company is not going to keep you paid. Advance-based sales, advance-based pay. So I just want to make sure you guys are all with me on that. Now, persistency is huge, and it goes along with a lot of different things within this business, such as tracking your clients. So this is kind of where it's all going to lead from. Now, like as an example, I know Heather has the best client tracker in Family First Life, but I'm not going to have her go over that right now because it is a bit more intricate. However, I'm going to keep it really baseline, guys. Your client sheet should have the following. And if you have a pen and paper and your persistency needs to go up, or you don't know what persistency is, now is the time to take notes, guys. The first thing so this can be a Google sheet, an Excel sheet. I didn't even know that they were different until like last week. Whatever sheet you want it to be on, okay? It could be on a piece of paper if that's how you operate, all right? Client sheet, it's going to say the date, meaning the date you did business on, the date you spoke to that person, the client's name, the client's phone number, the carrier, the amount of AP. So, if it's $100 a month, it's going to be $1,200 AP, the monthly payment, the lead source, and then last 2 things that I think are the most important are policy status or requirements and reoccurring draft day. All right, so now on these calls, guys, we talk about like, the good, the bad, the ugly. And today we're going to talk about the ugly, just to keep it very transparent, because I like to put that out there for everybody. And again, if we can be proactive, not reactive, that's the best thing in any business. So with that being said, client sheet. If you have your clients tracked on a sheet and you simply use a color coding system, like whatever that means to you, but make sure everything's tracked. Now, as an example, you might get an approval on the soft check with Mutual of Omaha. I love Mutual. I'm just using them as an example. And now Josh Jones's policy goes through and Mutual of Omaha flags it. Maybe they want to do a telephone interview. Maybe the bank draft got kicked back. There's a variety of different things, guys, as agents that we need to follow up on our business. When you get that instant decision or approval, it's an amazing thing. It's incredible. But when you don't check on your business to make sure it's still approved, once it hits the carrier's back office, it can become a problem, guys. So we need to track our business. The easiest way that I've come up with in my 8 years of being in the industry is simply having an Excel sheet. And it's like, guys, if we can't have a simple Excel sheet to run our business on, come on, we can all do that. We're all capable. Everybody on this call is more than capable. So how can we help with persistency, right? What can we do to make sure our persistency stays up? What can we do to fix our persistency? I'm going to kind of hit on all these things. And as I go through, guys, if you have questions, please feel free, unmute yourself, whatever it might be. You don't have to like raise your hand. That makes you feel really awkward. So just unmute yourself. If you have questions, comments, etc. Just go for it. So client sheet's going to be the first thing because that's something that you and me, we can all control as agents. We can control, am I tracking my clients? Am I tracking my business? Guys, if we're not doing that, just like when we don't submit our numbers, it's like you're not tracking your damn business. Come on, you're a business owner, right? Like Heather said, if you want to go ahead and take her sheet, she's happy to share it with you because Heather's a team player. So thanks, Heather. But guys, persistency is essentially profitability, right? I'm going to give 2 examples, okay, just to kind of paint a picture. Let's just say that agent A, okay, issues out $80,000 of business, okay, in the month of August, okay? And now let's just say that agent B issues out $50,000 in the month of August. Who do we think probably made more money? Anybody? That was not supposed to be a trick question, guys. No one.
The one wrote 80,000.
The one that wrote 80,000, right? By simple math. All right, guys. I don't know if I hope I'm not already losing y'all because if I am, this call is not going to help me. It's meant to help you guys too, all right? If an agent's writing $80,000 a month, but their persistency is 50%. Okay, and then you have agent B writing 50,000 a month and their persistency is 90%. They're actually making the same amount of money. Okay, so we don't necessarily always want to focus on this high volume, or how can I get a higher premium? A higher premium typically is going to lead to a higher chargeback, okay? So we don't always want to go for that. But guys, it's important to understand if agent A is writing $80,000 at a 50% persistency, first and foremost, their carrier contract is at risk because your persistency is now below industry average, which is 70%, guys. So it can impact a lot of different things. That's why I'm hitting on this. I know there's a lot of different pieces as I kind of walk through this. I'm trying to simplify it the best I can, guys. So agent A writes 80,000 is at 50% persistency. You're probably looking at them on the leaderboard like they're killing it. They're making 80 grand a month. Now they might be, if their persistency is good, 100%. There's a lot of agents doing that in this company. However, if their persistency is 50%, it's like they wrote 40,000. Right? So like, why put all that energy, time, effort into the other 40 if it's not going to stay on the books, right? Sometimes, again, we'll do things like this. These are some things that we do as agents. We write people that we know are not our client, okay? Like, we know they're going to cancel. We're like, oh, we just want to see if we can get you qualified. Like, and then it drafts. So that's asking for a cancellation. It's also asking for somebody to never trust an insurance agent again. Okay. Some other things that we do that mess with our persistency is we don't answer the phone. Guys, we got to answer the phone, or at least we got to give a call right back. These are all small, tiny things that go into why that producer that hypothetically wrote 80 grand made the same amount as a producer that wrote 40 and is at 90%, right? Or that wrote 50 and but is at 90%. Guys, focus on quality of business. Long term in this business, it's going to serve you. You could be like, I need to make a quick buck to pay my rent. Well, I'm telling you that telling Mr. Jones, oh, well, we'll see if you qualify, and then drafting, having his bank account draft, and he doesn't understand, that is not going to lead to good things down the road for you, for the insurance carrier, for the client, for anybody. It's a literal lose, lose, lose for everybody. Okay. So guys, with virtual sales, I get it. You might be like, well, I talked to this guy this morning and I wrote him and he talked to 8 different people. Well, what blockers did you put in place to make sure he doesn't talk to 8 more? Right? There's things like this we have to be thinking about when we're serving our clients. So kind of going into that appointment, you're in that appointment, you know you should be writing the business. Essentially, what I always say is the client sold you on the insurance as to why they need it, right? At that point, you're writing your application, and now you're post-close, right? Meaning like you closed your business, you wrote the application. What are you doing now, right? So like John, let's just say John and Mary are both approved with America. What are we doing, right? Like, what does that process look like after they're approved? Are we just like, have a great night, take care, bye, and we never talk to them again? They're going to cancel the policy, I promise. And I say that, guys, because there's going to be someone else that calls them and says exactly what we said. We just wanted to do a quick review of the policy. And guess what? You the agent, didn't call and do the review. So now that other agent's probably going to steal your business. That's your fault, just like it's my fault, right? When that happens. So guys, post-close is really important. A couple of things that I've implemented, whether that was in-home telesales, both, is at the end of my appointment, it's almost just like embedded in me. I could be like 12 appointments behind. And I'll say, now, John and Mary, last thing before I let you guys go, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think I really did my best job helping your family today? Now, guys, if you write them, they're going to say 10. Like, it's really weird if they don't. I've had one person be like 8. I said, then why'd you pick me? He was like, I don't know. I just thought 8 was good. 10. Like, but it's reinstilling into them like, hey, I'm looking to get better, right? Like sometimes you'll be like 10, why? Like, oh, I'm always looking to see where I can get better and serve my clients better, right? So you're connecting with them there. And then from there, okay, they're like, 10. We think you're a 10, Danya, right? And she's like, yeah, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm always looking for ways to get better. Okay. When we hang up, John and Mary, I know I have your cell phone numbers. I know you wrote down my cell phone number, which is the number we're on right now, but I'm going to send you a text message. It's going to outline what we did today, what we talked about, and make sure you please save it as my personal line. I'm always just a phone call or text away. And I'm going to have Christina go ahead and share that in the chat. Whenever you got a second, Christina, if you could just share the text that we drop. Guys, this is a great way to outline coverage. So once Christina drops that in there, if everybody can take a look at that, it's going to be extremely important. But while she's pulling that up, my point is you have to connect with your clients. You have to talk to them more than once. I get it. We're always kind of chasing like the next sale, the next sale, the next sale, the next sale, the new sale. But we're not realizing sometimes that going back and making sure that our business is good is actually going to keep our bank account higher than if we go and just try to write new business. Okay. So if you guys look at the chat, this text is not intricate at all. It's very basic, and it's what I send over to all of my clients. Save this as my personal line. I'm always a phone call or text away. Below is your policy information. Shows all the information. You might be like, oh my God, I have to type that in. Guys, if that takes you more than 2 minutes, like I love you, but like, please, like it shouldn't. It really shouldn't. Okay. And then make sure you're saving your client in your phone. That way it's so much easier to go back and talk to your client. When you have all that information in front of you, like what else do you need? You know what I mean? Now, exactly, copy and paste that. If you don't have something that you're saying that's along these lines, please take this out of the chat, guys, because these are the small things that we miss. And they're sometimes the reason why our policies fall off. If you have agent CRM, because I know this is going to come up, there is a way that you can go ahead and do like a leave behind email, and all you're doing is plugging in the different, you're plugging in like, for example, Americo, the AP, the monthly payment, all that good stuff, and it's sending out an email. And same thing in Ringy, there's a disposition that you can go ahead and do that. But guys, just to keep it again baseline, like send a text. Like that's what it got to say. And that's going to help you so much more if you think, okay, when my client calls me in 6 months from now and asks me about their coverage, you're going to have it right in your text. Like, oh, Hey, Danya. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, absolutely. America. Okay, got it. Like it gives you that much more to remember about the client, right? So it helps you guys, it helps us, right? Like it helps all of us too, just like your client sheet. Um, and when we're doing this, guys, at the end of that phone call, right, where I'm saying like, hey, I'm going to send you a text message, save my number, ABC, right? Um, if we're telling them, like as an example, if I'm like, hey, Devin, I'm going to give you a call in the next 2 to 5 days to let you know if you're approved or not, like I need to be calling Devin in the next 2 to 5 days, or I need to expect that policy to fall off because he's like, she didn't do what she said she was going to do. All I did was talk to her on the phone. I thought we were cool. I thought she was going to be my agent for life. Doesn't seem like it. She hasn't even called me. Guys, the policy could have got lost. He could have never got the policy. Like, there's things that can happen after business is issued or not issued. Other things we want to think about too is it can be approved, guys, but we are human beings. We make mistakes. Has anybody ever put the bank information wrong on an application? I have, right? Like a lot of times, like two hands for that, right? And guys, if we're not looking into that and we don't see, oh, it kicked back the bank information, we don't call the client and get it fixed. Same thing. We got paid on that business. It's now bad business. We now have a chargeback. For John Smith, who wants his policy with AIG, it just didn't go through on the bank draft because we're not checking. Guys, this business in the last 5 years, and I don't say this to be like, as Sean would say, like I used to walk in 6 feet of snow to school. That's not what I'm saying. But guys, 5 years ago in this industry, I was walking into people's houses with paper applications, not knowing if they were going to get approved. And I wasn't like stomping my feet when they got denied 2 weeks later. I was back at their house with a new paper application, hoping they were going to get approved. Like that's what it looked like. That was what we had to do as agents to follow up. That's what made sense at the time. Guys, what makes sense now? We have technology working in our favor, but we also got it working against us in a way. If we just get off the phone and we think it's one and done, like it's one and done, you're going to get a charge back, boo. Like I love you. I'm going to get a charge back. Heather's going to get a charge back. Everybody's going to get a charge. And that's all we're looking to do, right? Like we're looking to completely avoid that, right? So we can practice avoidance by not answering the call, but that is going to only lead you to make sure you have a higher chargeback ratio. Now, guys, you could be like, she might be really stuck on this. Guys, I'm stuck on this because there's a lot of small things we can do to make it better. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a job do you think I did helping your family today? Like, that's a question that you can just tell, like, someone who's genuine and wants to help asks. Like, if I don't care, I'm not going to ask that. So guys, if you ever hear me get off the phone and I don't ask that, you should be like, you don't care about your client. Because I don't, if I'm not doing that. It takes 10 seconds, maybe, right? Same thing with the text message, it takes 10 seconds. Same thing with doing what you say you're going to do. Now, another thing I want to quickly hit on in regards to this is post dating. So guys, I'm not a big post date, but post date means like, as for example, today is the 19th of the month. You put on your application that the client's first premium payment is going to draft on, for example, October 3rd. Okay, that's a post date. It means that it's dated out in the future. It's not going to issue on approval, right? So with that being said, sometimes guys, we'll talk to people on the 19th, right? Like I'll talk to John Smith today on the 19th. And what I'm going to say to John, by the way, so this is also good too when you're going through the bank. We don't want to be asking. We want to be telling through the process. Now, is it going to work for everybody? No. But if this doesn't work, they're going to tell you guys. When you're in the bank information, this is what I say. Now, Christina, the way that this works, assuming that you're approved for the coverage, you're going to see a draft on your account in the next 24 to 72 hours, and it's going to normally reoccur on the 19th of the month, okay? And she's going to say, okay. Or she's going to say, actually, I'm on Social Security, so if you can make it the 3rd of the month, that would be great. All right, Christina, just to make sure though, I know it's $47 a month on the 3rd of October and going forward on the 3rd of every month, because I know you're mentioning right now you don't have that $47 there. Do we see that that's going to be a budgeting issue or guys, you see where I'm going with that? If they can't afford it, they can't afford it. If it's the 6th of the month and they're like, I don't have $47, unless something terrible just happened that they had to spend their whole check, it doesn't necessarily make sense, especially in the beginning of the month, right? Social Security is usually on the 3rd of the month. That's why I'm referencing the beginning of the month, guys. But my whole point is we need to make sure that it's always going to be there, right? So it's like if $47 is too much for John, I'll rather lower the coverage amount, make it $22 on the 3rd of the month, and John can actually keep up with it. And he has insurance for his family and he can afford it. It's a win for everybody. When everybody wins, right, guys? So making sure that we keep up with things like that, because there's too many times, guys, I get like the Mutual of Omaha, SBA, state, and I'm sure a lot of you guys get them too. It's like anyone who gets those, if you get that from Mutual of Omaha, it comes at like, I don't even know, maybe like 8 Eastern time, or like, I don't know, like a weird time of the, like not a weird time, like a good time of the day, I would say actually. When those pop in, those are like leads, dude. Like, unless they're your agent that's active, obviously you should be telling your agent, like, hey, call your client, like, because you can't check your back office. But it's essentially like, it's things that fell off, whether it was insufficient funds, invalid bank, it was the client missed a payment, maybe they had a bad month, they need to catch back. Like, guys, we have to keep in touch with our clients to keep our business on the books, right? It's a two-way street. We want to make sure we're over communicating with them and never under communicating. All right, guys. So with the payment thing, guys, if you do post date, okay, let's just say you got 8 people that are going to pay out on the 3rd of the month, and you wrote them from September 10th to September 18th. I can tell you that out of those 8 people, at least 5 of them, something's going to go wrong with the bank, something silly is going to happen, and it's not going to stay on the books. With that being said, what can we do? On the 1st of the month, prior to the draft, ring, ring to all 8 people. It takes like 8 minutes, guys. I love you. Ring, ring. We call them. If they don't answer, we leave a voicemail. Hey, Christina, it's Marysa, your insurance agent. How are you doing? She's like, I'm doing great. And I'm like, awesome. Just giving you a friendly reminder that you were approved for that coverage. I believe you got the policy documents in the mail. Is that right? Yes. Okay, amazing. You're going to see that first premium payment come out in the next, 24 to 48 hours on the 3rd, like we talked about, and it will normally reoccur. Now, Christina, do you have any other questions for me right now? No? All right. And you got your policy? Guys, we need to make sure people are getting their damn policies. If they're not, it's a chargeback. If you bought something on the internet, okay, ready? Stay with me, guys. If you bought something on the phone with somebody, you gave them all your personal information, and you don't get a policy in the mail, what are you going to assume? It's a scam. I got scammed. It's not legit, right? So, see, Danya, a guy I talked to yesterday thought he was getting scammed because his agent didn't check on him and never received the policy. I mean, that's what I would think, I would be like, oh, it must be some type of scam. Guys, they're not sitting in our shoes, right? But our job is to communicate with them as their agent, right? When we're telling someone, hey, Christina, the good news, this is what I tell all my clients at the end. Hey, Christina, the good news and the bad news is you're stuck with me for life. Congratulations, you were approved. Even if they're not approved. Christina, the good news and the bad news is you're stuck with me for life. All right, we'll have that approval back in about 2 to 5 days. I'll give you a shout if the insurance company should need anything else in the meantime. Make it a great day. God bless. My whole point, guys, is we got to walk our client through the what comes next. It's not just close the sale and don't talk to your client ever again. Now, I'm not saying that you have to invite them to your Easter dinner. What I'm more so saying is you want to make sure that you're communicating with them on a client to broker level, straight like that. Like, that's your client. Treat them the way that you would want to be treated. Think about what you would want done if it were you, and make sure we're doing what we say we're going to do. Last couple things that I did want to hit on as it pertains to persistency. Guys, there are going to be times, I've had a couple agents reach out to me in regards to this, which is completely okay. I'm happy you guys reached out. But like, what is a telephone interview? Like, someone's requesting a phone interview with my client. What does that mean? It just means underwriting needs a little bit more information. It's not a big deal. And now, Christina, can you unmute real quick?
Yeah.
When I was in the field writing like paper apps, right? Like, like what that looked like, right? It was fun, but it was crazy, right? If I wrote 10 people, how many of them were going to get a telephone interview?
I mean, it used to be way more common than it is now.
Yeah. Like how many we're going to get?
Probably half.
At least 10. We're going to get at least 5. And guys, it's like, my point in saying this is not like, again, I walked in the snow 6 feet to school. No, it's to say, guys, they simplified the process, but we need to make sure we're doing our job on our end, right? Like, because if we're not, it doesn't matter.
And
Right.
guys,
So
that's as easy. Sorry, Marysa, to interrupt you, but that's as easy as just like prepping the client on that might happen. Like post closing them and just letting them know, hey, they might do a telephone interview. It's not a big deal. You answer no to all the medical questions on the application. When they call you, exactly, just continue to answer no.
exactly.
Like
And guys, like
if they do request a telephone interview, but you just prep the client on that. It's not a big deal.
exactly. It's not a big deal at all. And even guys, if you're like, I didn't prep my client, they want a telephone. It's they're an insurance company, guys. They have a risk. Of course, they might want a phone interview, and guess what? They can get it, or they're not going to issue the policy. That's life, right? And guys, on the phone interview, they're just asking. This is exactly what I say to my clients. Now, Christina, on the phone interview, if they even do one, they're just going to ask you a lot of the same questions I asked you on the application. You just want to give them very direct yes or no answers. Don't over explain anything. Does that make sense? I'm on your team. They're not necessarily on your team. Is that making sense? Got it. Because we don't need them oversharing on the phone interview, guys. Okay. So that's why I say I'm your friend. They're not your friend, so to say. We're just telling them answer yes or no. But guys, when these things are outstanding requirements, like sometimes I'll go into the back office and I'll see like pending business and it's like insufficient funds, invalid bank, phone interview, needs diabetes questionnaire, and nothing's happening, like the agent isn't following up on it, guys, you're not going to get paid and the client's not going to get the coverage. So we wasted everybody's time. Just get the requirements done. This all goes back to being able to communicate with the carriers. Guys, the carriers are not there to be at your beck and call, but the carriers are there to help support you in issuing out your business and issuing it out fast. They are 100% there to do that. They're also there to make sure that if there's a draft issue, that it gets fixed. They're also there to make sure if there's a bank problem, that there's a way to fix it, right? So we have so many different resources. We just have to use them. And sometimes you have to use a little bit more energy than we were, right? Add it into your script. At the end, whatever you want to say, just like how I'll say at the end, now, Christina, you're probably going to have, 8, 9, 10 other people calling you about the same thing. When they call you, you just want to let them know that you're working with Marysa Maggio. And if they keep calling you, just go ahead and give them my number, okay? And like, that's what makes somebody your client versus it's like whenever like you ever call somebody and you're like, they're like, oh, I got it taken care of. And you're like, that's exactly why I'm calling. Just my job to do a quick review of the policy. And they're like, nope, nope, nope. And they hang up on you. You know why? Because their agent did a good job. Flat like that. When they don't hang up on you and they're like, oh yeah, let's talk. Is when the agent didn't do what they said they were going to do. The agent didn't call them back. The policy never got to them. It was never explained. They left the agent a voicemail. The agent didn't call back. Guys, we're all human. We're going to make mistakes. But my point is we don't want to be writing business and then getting paid on like only 50% of it because that's a waste, right? It's like when we look at submit to issue paid, right? Like submit is great. It looks cool. But like issue paid is what actually happened, right? So it's like, it's the same thing, guys. Persistency is what stays on the books. So another thing I might start asking if I'm a new agent or I'm just an agent in general, and something I do ask people is, what's your persistency? Before I'm going to ask somebody for a sales tip, what's your persistency? Because if your persistency isn't that hot, like you might be working on it. That's cool. I ain't mad at you. But like, if they're not at least bold enough to be like, well, it's 60, but I'm working on it. I'm just not I'm not doing that hot right now with the persistency piece, but I'm closing it. I'm killing it on closing. Maybe I'll hear something about how they close, but I'm not going to take advice for them on how to keep my clients as my clients, right? And then last thing, how does this all kind of tie back together to your whole business as a whole unit is first and foremost, after that 9 months, they're going to pay you month 10, 11, and 12 in real time. And of course, you have your residual income. But also, it's going to help you do your annual reviews like this much easier. It's like now all the information's in front of you. You're like, oh, okay, I wrote Liz on this day at this time with this carrier for this much AP. Oh, I put a note here that, like her son might want to get an IUL in the near future once he pays off his credit card. Like, it sounds silly, guys, but when you remember small things about your clients and you follow up with them, like you're just doing an annual review. All that means is you're reviewing their coverage with them. Okay. So, guys, it makes your life a lot easier. And if you're not doing annual reviews, I would tell you guys do them. In the first company, that's all I did. And on other people's clients, by the way, which is very wrong. We do not do that here at Family First Life. On other people's clients, all I wrote, like my first couple years of insurance, was like adding coverage to people's policies or trying to. Okay, so my point is there's a lot of insurance to be written. There's a lot of insurance to be added. And not at the time of sale does everybody know what their budget's going to look like in a year from now. So, guys, this all just ties back to, hey, make sure you're staying in touch with your clients. Making your clients your client for life is going to have some type of communication. So do what you say you're going to do. Pay attention. Check your back offices. Don't just take an approval on the screen as a full out approval. Make sure that that business is getting issued and paid out to you as the agent. So I know I just went on like a 35-minute tangent, but I hope that you guys got some good stuff from that. Does anybody have questions? Go ahead and unmute, please.
I do have questions. I've been listening for almost a year now on all of the annual review stuff, and you just touched on that. What does that look like? Because I have a couple of clients that have asked, well, can I add to my policy? And I've never actually gone through that, so I don't know what that looks like. And then at the end of the year, when you're going through, you're just basically making sure, are you good? Do you want to add to it? I mean, can they add to it at that point? Do they have to go through a whole new application? Do they have to get approved again? How does all of that work?
Great question. So Liz, surface answer is going to be yes, they would have to get approved again, assuming it's, a year later, right? But they can add coverage. So why is this kind of advantageous, so to say, is because like, you ever talk to like a husband and a wife and maybe their finances are a bit tight and they only put coverage on the husband and they're like, oh, maybe we'll put something on, Mary later, right? That's where it becomes advantageous. So it's not always just to add to that current person's coverage, but also like family members. When we're following up with our clients every year and we're doing that quick annual review and we're scheduling it, by the way. So Liz, this is something I would like schedule. Don't just call them and like do the review, like schedule it out. Almost so it feels more official and you want them to have their documentation in front of them as well. It is a great time to get referrals as well, just like Heather just said. So that's really what's going to usually come out of it is referrals. So Heather's like, get to the damn point, Marysa. So referrals is what's usually going to come out of it. Usually, like sometimes people will add coverage, but more common than not, it will be like, hey, my aunt actually was talking about life insurance the other day. Like, would you be able to help her out? Like she's in the state of Louisiana. It's like, yeah, like, shoot her over my contact information. I'd love to take hers. Whatever it might be, things like that are huge. And just asking at the end, because they've now been your client. Like, just like how that text like reads very non-aggressively, like, if you know anyone that could benefit from our services, kindly share my phone number, make it a great day. Like, same thing, like, hey, Liz, I know we did your insurance, we did a review of it now. Okay, you got it, everything makes sense. We don't really need any more coverage right now. Do you know anybody else that might that would benefit from hearing about something like this? They might say no. Okay, cool, next, right? That's okay. So that's kind of what an annual review looks like. It's just kind of you're reviewing their coverage. Maybe there's a spouse in the house, a child in the house, an opportunity for an IUL or an annuity. They trust you now. You've been their agent for some time. They're going to trust you with more things, so to say. And then finding referrals. That's really the keys of kind of that follow-up appointment. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Of course.
When you add kids to the policy, like let's say somebody or just had a kid and they want to add it to the policy, you don't have to make like a whole new application, right? It's just like you're just adding the kids, or do you still have to go?
So it's going to depend on what you're doing. So if the parent has a policy that they can add a child rider, they can
Okay.
probably still add that rider. They'll probably still have that option, but it's usually an individual policy on that child. So
Okay.
usually it would be like, let's just say John is the child. It will be an application on John himself as the child,
Okay.
and the parent would be the owner and the payer.
Okay. Okay. Thank
Does
you.
that make sense?
Can I
Perfect.
add something, Marysa?
Please.
So another thing is like every new agent will just write a policy, right? You don't know what you're doing. Everybody's scared. You just write a policy. A year later, you have a lot more knowledge. You potentially have more companies. You have more products under your, up your sleeve. So that might also play into that as well. And you can service them better that way too, if you have that annual review.
100%. I couldn't agree with that one. Absolutely. Thanks for adding that, Heather. Anybody else? Feel free to unmute.
Marysa, why is keeping your persistency so important outside of the fact that it keeps you profitable? Like, what are some consequences agents can face if they don't keep their persistency to a certain level?
Yeah, and guys, I never wanted to get, thanks for asking that, Christine. It's a great question. I never wanted to get here. That's why I'm kind of trying to put this in front of everybody's face and say, like, hey, look, let's make sure that we're within industry average. Let's make sure we know our numbers, right? So some repercussions, so to say, are going to be chargebacks. This is chargebacks. Persistency and chargebacks coincide, okay? Second repercussion is going to be, you're going to get terminated with the carriers, guys. Terminated. Okay, like it's the worst word ever. I don't think there's a worse word in the dictionary except terminate. If your persistency goes below a certain amount with said company, first of all, they're not going to notify like me and be like, hey, we're about to terminate John Smith because his persistency is terrible. They're just going to terminate like 10 to 1 cents. Okay, 10 to 1 cents. Guys, it needs to get pretty bad for that to happen, but it can get pretty bad really fast in this industry, guys. So if your persistency goes below a 70 with a carrier, you want to pay attention to it. You want to start writing good quality business, slowing down. Sometimes we got to slow down to speed up, right? Slow down in your appointment if that's happening. So some consequences, Christina, would be biggest consequences. You're going to get terminated with that carrier. Now, another consequence to that consequence is, let's just say hypothetically you get terminated with Americo and you're building a business, okay? First of all, now you just lost. By the way, guys, if you get terminated with an insurance company, just like if you get terminated anywhere else in America, the contract that we all signed says that they're going to keep our renewals. So now all the money that you worked hard for X amount of months, years, whatever, kiss it goodbye to Mutual of Omaha because they're like, we're good with you. We don't like you. You're terminated. So is your book. Take a hike. Bye. And guess what else happens? Your clients get a ding in the mail stating that you're no longer active with the company. That's not a fun one. I can tell you that. It's just not fun. So guys, don't get yourself there. Now, if you're like, oh shit, my persistency sucks, and you're on this call right now, and you can just be open and candid and know, hey, my persistency sucks. I got some work to do. We put some actual things in place that you can just take today and rock with, right? Go back on your clients over the last couple of months, give them a shout, see how they're doing, check your back offices. Guys, if you're predominantly using 4 carriers, check your back offices. Like American Amicable, I love you guys, but the way that their back office is set up, it's like, I can see everything. And when I go on there, I'm like, does anybody want to get paid? Like, a lot of you guys are gonna text like, hey, what's up with Sherry Jones in Ohio? Why has it been sitting there for 2 weeks? Then, oh, I didn't know. Guys, we got to know. We got to log in. We got to check, right? So I know that just went down a rabbit hole, but repercussions would be you're going to lose your contract with that carrier. Now, let's just say you have downline agents. Guys, your downline isn't going to be like, oh, we're not going to write Americo because you don't have an agent code, as they shouldn't, by the way, because that's not their fault. And now you're going to lose the overrides on your team. So don't let it get to a place where you're going to get terminated with the carrier due to persistency. And if you feel like you need help, particularly with persistency, guys, I remember having a conversation, with one of my mentors, like maybe 2.5 years ago, particularly about persistency. And I told him that I thought my persistency sucked and I was scared. And I was scared I was going to get terminated. And I gave him like a list of the things I was worried about. And he's like, okay, well, first of all, your persistency is this. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was, not even close. But it would still could have gotten better, guys. But all he did was be like, hey, there's some practical things, if you think about it through your presentation, that you can do to make sure your client is your client for life, right? Like, so now transition to telesales. At that time I was in the house. It doesn't matter. Either way, it's all about communication. The 3-touch system. The first time you call them or you're talking to them, you sell them. The second time you talk to them, hey, you were approved. Congratulations. This is what to expect. The third time you talk to them, hey, I just wanted to make sure you got your policy in the mail. Do you have any questions? Okay, great. We do an annual review, so don't worry. I'll be reaching out to you in the next 9 to 12 months. If you have any questions in the meantime, give me a call. This is my direct line. I'm so happy you have it. So we don't have to overcomplicate it, guys. We just have to make sure we're talking to our clients and we're doing what we say we're going to do. So that's what I got. So don't put yourself in that place of like, you have to face a repercussion because you aren't paying attention to your persistency. If you're like, I don't even know what my persistency is. Well, guys, if you haven't written business yet, don't worry because your persistency is 100, okay? But once you do write business, check your back offices because you could be killing it on Americo's persistency. And then on mutuals, you're at like a 20 and you're about to get terminated and you don't even know because you don't pay attention. And guys, I love you. These are just some of the things I did through my journey in insurance that I'm like, okay, like, let's make sure that we avoid this, right? Because this is something I don't think I brought in front of the team as often as I should. But it's like, guys, it's not about how much we write. It's about how much we keep, right? If somebody writes $1 million on the year, but they netted, I mean, they made after expenses $50,000, like who the heck would want to do that, right? No one, not at least not me. Like, I'm good, right? It's a lot of premium to make $50,000. But if your persistency is so bad, it's like you're doing 5 times the work for the same pay. So stop doing 5 times the work, slow down. You might take 4 applications instead of 5, and that's okay because they're all going to stay with you. And then remembering to love the one you're with, meaning that if you're in an application, whatever, they're getting declined, this is your client, stay with them, stay on the phone with them, do what you got to do, love the one you're with. You don't know if your next one's going to answer. Check your back offices and try not to post date applications, guys. There is one last statistic I want to share with you guys in terms of post dating. I thought this was kind of interesting because it's a LIMRA stat, which means it's an actual life insurance stat. For policies that go into force on issue, industry average is 72% for them to stay on the books for 13 plus months. For policies that go into effect after, like a post-dated application, 7 days or later, LIMRA says the average 13-month persistency is 51%. Guys, 51%. That's going to get you terminated. That's going to get me terminated. That's going to get everybody terminated. We don't need that. Nobody's getting terminated. Have it go for it.
So do you just suggest that we just get them off the phone and call them back later on?
What do you mean?
There's a lot of people who, especially as like Social Security people, who can't pay till the 3rd. Do we just save them all up and call them on the 1st?
That's what I do. So it's like,
okay,
because I feel like it sticks better, and you might have 1 or 2 people be like, oh, Heather, I actually don't want that. Okay, well, you know what? You can pull it out before it pays out and you get the charge back, right? And your persistency goes down. So, yes,
so
that's what I do.
How do you say that? What are your word tracks for that?
Like when I'm calling them.
Heather,
Yeah, like
Marysa
when
just means she reminds them that the payment's coming out. She doesn't mean she doesn't write the policy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Heather's saying, would you recommend not writing a policy if you need to post date it?
Oh, no, my bad. Definitely write the policy. Sorry about that. I'm saying, sorry. I'm saying on the 1st, I give them a call, like a reminder call, like, hey, Heather, it's your Marysa Maggio, your life insurance agent. How are you? And you're like, I'm great. I'm like, just giving you a friendly reminder. You're approved with that Americo policy. You'll see it on your bank draft in the next, 2 days on the 3rd. And it's just going to normally reoccur.
So let me ask you this then, because I actually texted you. So how many hours a week do you spend following up with clients, or do you have it on your calendar split out that I do it this time? What's your strategy?
So all I do, I honestly, and like some of you guys are gonna be like, seriously, yeah, this is my system. It works for me. At the top of my day minder on the 1st of the month, as an example, I'm just gonna like read what mine says right now. It says, I'm not gonna read all their, it says Marlon, Carlos, Jennifer, James, and Joan. Meaning call them on the 1st, right? Because they're gonna draft on the 3rd. All I'm doing is, that takes me literally 10 minutes. If it takes me more than 10 minutes, I'm talking to the client for way too long. Now I'm like trying to make it a friendship, not a client to agent relationship. You know what I mean? So it doesn't take me long at all. Literally, guys, if that's taking you more than like an hour in a week, that's too long. It takes me maybe 10, 15 minutes. Same thing though, if you're like the 3rd Wednesday, I just put their name 2 days before at the top of my day minder. That's telling me, hey, make sure you give this person a call, remind them about their policy. Did that answer your question, Heather? My bad.
Absolutely, and I'm
Okay.
scared shitless that my persistency is low. Now my assistants are gonna be going to look because oh my god. But this is really good. That's actually huge. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, guys, it's just something we all want to keep an eye on. So it's something I thought was really important to go over today on the team call, just because I know that sometimes I lose sight of it. That means we all, lose sight of it here or there. And just something I wanted to kind of bring to the newer agents that are just like, hey, like kind of how does this work? So just so we're all tracking. But I appreciate all of you guys. Anybody else have anything before we jump off for today?
Quick question.
Yeah.
How do you check your persistency? Is it in Gateway or what?
That is a great question. So for every carrier, you're going to have a different persistency, right? Which kind of makes it tough. Now, with that being said, you can check carrier specific. Now, guys, I'm not saying like Devin, I'm not saying, hey, go in there every single day and check your persistency. That doesn't make sense, right? But if you can do that once a month and check your actual persistency number, that's going to give you a good overall of where you're at. And then the best thing you can do is just take that number because you want to know your overall, right? Once a month, go into your back offices, get your persistency, take the numbers, add them together and divide it by X amount of carriers that you have. That's your persistency. For some of us that are getting bonuses through the company, now we're getting our report cards, right? For personal production bonuses. It shows our persistency. So that's with every company across the board, which is great. Now I wish that they could kind of issue that report card to everybody. I'm actually going to ask Trey if that's something that they plan on doing. But it's basically a report card. It breaks down what your persistency is, which I think is really cool to see. But yeah, if you're getting that bonus, you'll see that. If not, you won't. So Devin, best thing you can do, what I do is check like at least once a month that back office. Hey, at AIG, I'm at 87%. Americo, I'm at 80. And Aetna, I'm at 90. Take those, divide it by 3. That's a pretty good, trajectory of where you're at. And we want to remember too, it's going to go carrier to carrier, right? In terms of like how the carriers are going to see it. Now, in terms of how Family First Life sees it, just like Devin's saying, it's going to be all the companies combined is how FFL is seeing it. So guys, yeah, with that being said, you want to check your back office, like your actual back office, your pending, like you should be checking that almost daily to make sure that there's not requirements. Now, if you know you haven't written Mutual of Omaha ever, like there's no reason for you to check your Mutual of Omaha back office, right? But if you know that you've written American Amicable and you have some policies pending, you should be checking that back office and then following up to make sure the policy gets paid and issued out. So following through that whole process is going to be huge. Devin, I know I went down a rabbit hole there, but I hope, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think I know America makes it super easy because it's at the very top on that right hand side. It's all the other carriers that you're saying go into your back office and say, I personally don't know how to do that, but I'm sure that's something me and Christina can work on or something.
For sure. And
Guys,
I was going
if
to
you
say,
have questions about things like that, the best thing to do is just always call the carrier. Because there's different persistencies as well. Like there's like your placement persistency, there's your 6-month, your 12-month. So the best thing to do if you have questions about a carrier specific persistency is just reach out to the carrier and then they'll be able to show you too, like how to actually view it in your back office.
yeah, for sure. And how to pull it like as an individual versus a team, because things like that, like Devin, if you have someone on your team whose persistency isn't good, it could be reflective on yours and you're looking at it like, oh, I'm at 60, but like you're actually at 90 and, John Smith in your downline is at 40, right? So things like that. So it's best to just give the carrier a call 100% just to make sure you're looking in the exact correct place.
Thank you.
Of course, you got it. All right. Anybody else? Questions, comments, concerns? All right, perfect. So guys, if anybody does have questions that you didn't really want to bring up on this call, or maybe you were kind of, just shy to, feel free to reach out to me or upline directly. We'll make sure you get the right answers, but I appreciate all of you guys plugging in. Let's make it a strong push to the last couple of days of week 3 and towards the end of September. I appreciate all of you guys. See you on home office. Take care.
Thank you, Marysa.